welcome to the next episode of Parenting Podcast. And I am super over the moon to have with me Fidel Beauhill, who is just the king of kingmakers, the modern man coach. I'm so chuffed that you're here today, Fidel. For anybody who's heard Leanne, you at Davies podcast a few weeks ago, Fidel is, I don't know how you describe yourself, Fidel, as boyfriend, her man, her we can't say other half because you're whole people, but you are
a man,
an item.
King Turkey, an item, my bit of fluff.
Bit of fluff. You're missing.
Yeah, it's like partner is a good word, isn't it? But it's also a really, can I say shit? It's a shit word.
Say whatever you like. Yeah.
It's a shit word, isn't it? It's so unsexy, isn't it?
Yeah. But it just feels disconnected to me.
It's the go-to words. That or girlfriend. That's the one I normally use. But again, like, I'm not 15. We're like grown-ups. Lover is probably the best word, but that's probably a little too far the other way, isn't it? She's my lover. It sounds a little non-committal, doesn't it?
Yeah, well,
like a bit on the side, isn't it?
A bit on the side, yeah. The woman that you're not quite in a relationship with, but you are sleeping with. So, I don't know.
I don't believe in
definitely more than that. So,
in names or anything else like that. So, as yet undecided. I'm polling for there to just be a new word instead of partner, but I don't know what it is yet. I don't know. If you think of one, let me know.
The king and queen of coaching world. How's that? That'll do.
Wow. That'll do, wouldn't it?
But that's not how we met. I think we just, I don't know. I think we connected through the coaching world, and I think possibly I connected with Leanne separately to that. I don't know if you guys.
I think we were connected before me and Leanne were, actually.
Possibly, quite possibly. But you do some incredible stuff in terms of coaching men through divorce, through co-parenting, through finding themselves. Like how did that all come about for you?
Do you want the full length story?
Yeah, go for it. I've got tea.
I'm actually. It might be worth telling. So, oh god, we'll do the sort of the semi edit. So about 6 years ago now, I was married, and I used to run a law firm, doing wills and probate and things like that. Essentially, I grew my business a bit too quickly, and it was the second business whilst I was in my marriage that I was crashing. I had a massive one over in Spain. We were making millions, lived in a €1 million villa. We lost lots of millions of euros within the space of about 12 weeks when the recession came along, which is very painful for both of us and the relationship, and probably put the first dent in it. And then came back and I worked, and I set up another business, doing wills and probate, which was going really well until I decided to grow it, and I grew it too quickly, and I stopped doing the bits that I was good at, which is going out and selling. And what happened was, when I realized that the business was crashing, I didn't tell anybody, and I carried on. I was quite a well-known person. I had a massive national network. I was going around speaking on stage. I was known. I had another alter ego, Bad News Beauhill, and I was wandering around with a sign saying "You're all going to die," and wearing a jacket with skull and crossbones and stuff like that. And I wanted to maintain that air of having everything together. On the face of it, looking at me on the inside, I was everything that everybody wanted to be. I had a beautiful big house, great wife, great kids, the dog, 4-bedroom detached house, nice car, successful business, personality, lots of friends, massive network. I looked like I had it all. And I didn't want to lose that. And I carried on wearing the brave face. I literally didn't tell anybody, not even my wife at the time. And I was super fit. I was boxing competitively at the time, which I still do. I was ridiculously fit, ridiculously healthy. I had a fight coming up, so I was in the shape of my life. Anyway, I was coming home from seeing one of my clients one night, and I started having all these chest pains right across my chest. Severe chest pains, so much so that I could only just about drive. I managed to get home, But by that point, I kind of pretty much collapsed out of my car, dragged myself across the driveway, and was just like banging on the door. Kids opened the door, they pulled me inside. I collapsed on the front room floor. Wife called an ambulance. I thought I was having a heart attack.
Mm.
They came. Yeah. A bit I remember really clearly was them shaving my chest hair. And me being really upset about this.
Yeah, I bet.
I was
What the
like,
fuck?
no. So that they could put the little pads on my chest, right?
Oh, bless you.
And
That's gonna look good in the morning.
I was standing on my chest hair, and the the guy was like, well, you know, you're just not having a heart attack. Your heart rate is below 60, even though you're going through all of this. You must be really fit and healthy. And I'm like, yeah. So anyway, I ended up in hospital. I don't think the ambulance didn't take me. They asked us to drive in so they could go off and see somebody who's more of an emergency because I wasn't having a heart attack. My wife took me into the hospital. They did all the blood tests and everything else like that. And then a really nice doctor came down and had a chat with me and was like, your heart's okay. Everything else seems to be okay. Is it you experiencing any stress in your life at the moment? At which point I broke down and just like cried, bawled my heart out, told him everything. And he was like, I only asked because like I've been through the same thing. So basically what we're saying is you've had a panic attack. I was like, me? A panic attack? Like I don't get anxiety. Never have, not before, not since. Like on the face of it, and even in my own head, I was the most laid back guy you could ever meet. I was jolly, life and soul of the party sort of thing. But because of everything that I was suppressing, this was the physical manifestation, right?
Massively.
Of stress. And you know, everything came crashing down at that point. And I was just like, what I've got problems, right? You know, I've got stuff going on, I've got loads of like issues and hang-ups around money. Like, how am I going to solve all of this? Now, again, bear in mind that at that point, I'd never heard of, not that I'd never heard of it, but like life coaching, therapy never crossed my mind. Do you know what I mean? Never. So I went off and I had some hypnotherapy. Somebody recommended a hypnotherapist to get me to a point around money. Right, this was the thing. I was like, I have to heal my relationship with money because it's not healthy. I'd always managed to make money. Managing it after I'd made it was always the problem. And so yeah, I went to hypnotherapy and I was like, oh, this is really good. This is like taking my mind to the gym. Like, every time I came out of hypnotherapy session, I felt amazing. I was back. I was opening all my mail from the banks. I was like speaking to all the companies, handling all my finances and everything else. I was like, but I kept going to hypnotherapy, right?
Yeah.
And I started grilling my hypnotherapist, going like, how does it work? Da, da, da. She got fed up with me. She was like, Fidel, you know, like we fixed the problem that you've come. You don't have to keep coming to see me. I was like, but I like it. And she was like, if you like it that much and you're that interested, go and learn how to do it. And I was like, okay. So I went and did a little hypnotherapy course, and then the universe conspired, and I met this woman like 2 years earlier or something like that who taught NLP. And I hadn't thought I've always known about NLP because I've always been involved with sales, but it's always come across my consciousness via the sales pathway, and that's always what it was about to me. I didn't know it as a healing or a therapeutic system. Anyway, I had it mentioned as a therapy. I'd known about it then, and I was like, I think I should learn a bit more about this now. And literally 10 minutes later, I got this text from this woman. He went, "Hi, Fidel. We met a couple of years ago at a networking meeting, and I'm running an NLP training course next month. Would you like to be on?" I was just like, "Wow, man, that's weird." Okay. And yeah, 2.5 years later, during that process, have you ever studied NLP? Have you ever been on a?
Yeah. I have. Yes. Yeah. That's definitely changed my world. Certainly.
And that's the thing. So when you go on the program, I didn't really realize what it was about. So you go on the NLP practitioner course, don't you? And I remember it's quite funny because like everybody on the initial program, they were like, we were given these big sheets of flip chart paper, and it was like, write down all the stuff, all your problems and the blockages and everything else like that you've got that you want to work on over the course of the next couple of weeks. Write it all down. And everybody was like, all these sheets of paper.
Writing.
Do you know what I mean? These like massive big sheets of paper. I had one sheet of paper with like 2 things written on it, and I stuck it up on the wall.
Denial.
Like, kinda, and it's that's an interesting point. But yeah, don't get me wrong. Like as we then progressed through the week, like my list filled out. Everybody else was crossing theirs off, and I was going, oh, I guess I have got a bit more than I thought I had. And yeah, so I went through, like I said, I think I studied NLP for 3.5 years, did it over and over again, got up to master coach level, did the hypnosis through the NLP and timeline therapy and all that stuff. Got up to master coach level. And I guess while you're doing that, you get really clear on who you are, what you want, where you're going. And so that was the bit that really changed my life. I realized that as much as I enjoyed certain aspects of running my will writing business, there were also parts of it that I hated.
Yeah.
It was like smashing my face against the wall. Like I am really not that guy. It takes the certain personality to be a solicitor or an accountant. You've got a little tiny eyes for details and all that, which I managed to do, but it literally sapped everything out of my soul. To do it. And the problem was, the more successful I got, the more I had to do the stuff I hated. So out of all of this, I asked myself this question that I still ask my clients to this day. Actually, it's a very powerful question, which is, what do you have to offer the world?
Wow.
And it all kind of like came out of there. What I wrote down after asking myself that question kind of was a bit of a symbol of who I was, and I kind of encapsulated it all into what I now is my business, the Modern Man Coach. I was like, I'm a real shining example of a modern man, my life experiences, the way that I was brought up, the things I've been through, where I am now. I've got a real good sense of masculinity, although I wasn't operating out of it. In my relationship, I was a nice guy, which is a whole separate other story, doing a lot of nice guy behaviors. But by this point, I was working on a lot of that stuff. And my one thing was that if I had gone through something like that, somebody who's quite open, quite articulate, I had a great relationship with my wife. There were bits of it that weren't functioning fantastically, but I could have told her anything. She always kind of had my back. She still does. I still have hers. And I had a load of friends, like I said, massive network. Everybody would, but if I'd chosen not to speak, not to tell anybody, and I was really, after I'd whittled it all down, it was generally about my sense of who I was as a man, right? That sense of masculinity, of being a provider, of being a pillar of the community, of being somebody who had their shit together, all of that was so deeply interwoven with my sense of masculinity. And so admitting failure at running a business, not just the first time but the second time, just felt like admitting defeat as a man. Right. And that probably was what was stopping me and not allowing other people to see what was going on. Absolute garbage, right? Absolute garbage. Because as soon as everybody found out, there were loads of people just like, why the fuck didn't you tell me? I've been through this. I found out so many other people that have been and gone and done it all and everything. Which is easy to say in hindsight and everything else like that. But this stuff at subconscious level is really, really powerful, right? It affects our behaviors and what we do and our choices. So my purpose became creating spaces where men could talk about this sort of stuff and creating pathways for men to heal and connect with themselves as a man on a really healthy level, because I felt that conversation was really important. I felt that our generation had been really turned against masculinity. We were as men. I felt that our generation particularly had this unusual upbringing in society where masculinity in men had almost we were taught and told that it was toxic, that it was dangerous, that it was domineering and dominant and horrible. However, masculinity in women was celebrated, and all of this stuff. So a lot of us carry this weird disconnection to a masculine frame. and that makes me sad. Still makes me sad to this day when I realize how many people are still affected negatively by that. And so, yeah, my purpose is to get out and have this conversation about men and women and masculinity and femininity, being pro all of those things without being anti anything else as well is really important to me. But yeah, so that's how I got to what I do now.
It's amazing because like knowing some of your story and knowing kind of where you are now, like approaching it from a kind of single parent divorced kind of man aspect, as well as co-parenting, as well as bringing up, you know, teenagers, adults. There's so many different facets, there's so many different areas that I guess I can't speak for a guy's point of view, but are difficult for a guy to kind of hold your hands up and say that you need help, that, you know, that you're struggling. And the fact that you do that, I think, is incredibly important. And it, in a way, makes me kind of wonder how your girls see it and how your daughters see it, because it's different, isn't it, seeing that as a young woman. What? Why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing because, like, I think I have a couple of conversations. My youngest daughter is the one I'm kind of closest to, right? Because we've spent this time. My other two are older, and stuff. My youngest one I still have 50% of the time, and all of this, and we're quite close. So yeah, I remember having a bit of a rant going, "Oh, we don't have a life coach as a dad." sometimes things are just shit, and I don't want to see the bright side of them. I always have to look for the positives. Like, I just want to be miserable. Leave me alone.
Fair play.
Yeah, I know, right? Fair play. Like, that was back in the day. So 3 years on, I've actually learned that she's right. You know, she can. I find it difficult because I think my kids see a funny side to me. You know, I think my kids see quite a feminine side to me. A lot of it in my direct interaction with them.
Yeah,
they get a masculine side to me in ways that they probably don't even notice. But I think I'm quite feminine. I'm quite childlike. You know, when I interact with my kids, I muck about with them. Do you know what I mean? And they see this real soft, fun sort of side where I'm a bit jokey and I'm a bit, you know, I'm not that. They know when I'm serious. Don't get me wrong. When my voice goes down and I say no, then it stops.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's also been difficult for them as well, because like when I was with my ex-wife, which is the stuff that me and Leanne work with our clients now, which is polarity, right? And I think I'm coming from a first-hand experience where me and my ex-wife had totally done that polarity flip. She was very much in her masculine, I'd like taken a more feminine role inside the home, which is just bizarre. You know, out in the world, I'm like, The Sopranos always really intrigued me, and it just resonated with me so much, because I see Tony Soprano is just out in the world killing people and running like massive, like, really, you know, gangster organization and stuff, like feared by everybody, but he goes home and gets shit from his kids and his missus, right? And ends up having to get therapy about it. And it's like that's what it was like. It's like, oh, I'm out there, you know, a competitive boxer, won all my fights. Like, I come from the street, I worked on the doors, you know, I've had a very, very colorful life, right? And yet at home, I'm not making any of the decisions. My wife is telling me what to do, like what kind of, like, this whole thing, which was the death of our relationship for sure, contributed to it, which is why I help guys with now. So I have no idea. I think my attitude to parenting has always been about not directly trying to teach my kids, but to show my kids, right? I've always been about that. Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just watch me go about my business as a good man will, you know. And that is, I think, probably in my mind still the best way to approach it, really. I think, to just live your example, be your example, walk your talk, which we're not perfect at, you know. And it foibles and everything, right, are bad things to. I know when to apologize to my kids. I make no bones about saying sorry to my kids when I've made a mistake. We don't stay mad at each other for long. Leanne finds that very weird.
Really?
How we can, because I'm like it with everybody, right? People that I care about, I can get mad, but it doesn't mean I don't love you, right?
Totally.
So as soon as we finish that conversation, we move on to the next conversation, and
Yeah.
it's done. Leanne's just like, what? But I want to stay mad at you for a little bit more. I'm
Yeah.
not quite ready yet. And I'm just like,
That's so funny.
it's
Wow. Yeah, like different
like
dynamics
a
of
change
different
it, and then
households, though, eh?
yeah, for sure. I admit that it's probably not normal, but all my kids clock that now. Like me and my daughter will argue and we'll say things to each other, and then we just stop.
Yeah,
Right?
I love that. But that's kind of, I was just like trying to think. I think I'm quite like that, and I don't know whether it's a whether it is like a single parent thing, because you have to on the one hand be like really strict, and you have to be kind of authoritarian sometimes, but in the next breath you then have to be the person that scoops them up and hugs them and makes it all better. So being kind of everything to everyone in that same person is quite a difficult role to have.
Yeah, I think I've always been like that. Even while I was married, I think my ex-wife was quite on board with that
Mm.
system as well. We didn't argue that much. And me, I think
Pros
I was
and
probably
cons.
more. I was probably more of a sulker than she was. I can't. But I mean, it's easy to talk about it. Yeah, I don't know. Parenting after divorce is an interesting one. That
Mm.
single parenting. I don't know. Again, that's a phrase. Who knows what it actually means? What are you supposed to be? I don't know. I don't think I'm a single parent, although technically, I guess I am. I parent my child on my own half the time. I have my daughter 50-50. I
Yeah,
parent her on my own now. Um,
I guess that, well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's often referred to as the co-parenting, isn't it? The fact that you're supposed to be able to get along with the other parent as
yeah,
it
I mean,
were.
listen, well, I think me and my ex-wife are pretty fantastic examples of that. I still think that actually, as time goes on, weirdly enough, so I don't know if you know the other concept of parallel parenting, right? Which I think
Mhm.
more people should probably do, certainly at the beginning, while they struggle to speak to each other. It should be like when you have the kid, you have the kid,
Yeah,
right? I don't question you, you don't question me. All
yeah,
we do is pick up and drop off and
yeah,
discuss logistics and perhaps important things at school. But apart from that, you do what you do your thing, I do my thing.
Mhm.
Parallel parenting. And I think that's actually much healthier, especially if the relationship between you is broken up with sort of heartbreak and stress and everything else like that. Weirdly, ours didn't end that badly. And so we co-parented a lot more. But now I think we very much kind of just parallel parent. I get, my daughter's older now, the youngest one,
yeah.
she's 16 now. So this has been going on for 4 years. So it's slightly easier with older kids, I guess.
Because they can make their own
Um,
decisions, can't they? And they make their own
yeah,
content. You don't really
I,
need to have that.
I just think that we've always trusted each other. Do you know what I mean? As well, like I know, but we don't, and we also don't parent the same, right?
Right. Yeah.
We don't parent the same, and I think the things that frustrated us with each other when we were in the same house don't have to frustrate us anymore,
Yeah. Oh my
right?
God.
It's just
So
like
true.
we
Yeah.
just do it differently, but your way does work and so does mine. And we both 100% know that both of us would always have the child's best interests at heart. We both love them. We both die for them. We die for each other. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
still a unit in that way, but we just do things differently. And if we stuck our nose in too much to the other person, we'd just annoy each other
Yeah.
more, which we don't want to do.
Yeah. I like you seem to have this like really nice amicable relationship. Like, I've seen obviously you've been out for lunch for your daughter's birthday and stuff. And like
Yeah,
you're still very much friends and still very much like involved in each other's world, aren't you?
kind of.
With friends a bit.
Friends is a weird one. I'm not even sure. We're co-parents. Like I
Mm.
think I see that, and I think we've always been very respectful of each other. Respect was something that was never really lost.
Yes, yeah.
I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to maintain that. And I did a lot of work, and I've become a very different man to the one that I was that she was married to. So I think possibly her respect for me has gone up a little bit, and I've managed the. She probably wouldn't admit that, by the way. I've I don't know. I've managed our relationship to the best of my abilities, and I wrote a book about it. Divorce.
Mm.
Anyone's interested? Divorce: A Modern Man's Guide on how to do it. Um, and so yeah, there was never neither of us cheated on each other. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just
Mm.
the relationship was just finished. It was
Yeah.
finished. It went as far as it could, and it was great. But then it ended. And so I guess with I don't think we're fortunate. We're not fortunate. We're skillful. We called it at the right time before any of that stuff happened, right?
Yeah.
Because it would have.
Yeah.
It was absolutely going to. One or other of us was gonna seek something else outside of the relationship, or we would have just ground each other down until we did hate each other and had loads of resentment and all that sort of stuff. And we knew that that was coming, so we called it.
And I think that's really brave,
It was
actually.
really brave. It was really brave. It was scary as shit.
Yeah. Because you spend, I mean, like, certainly thinking about my own personal situation, I spent probably a good 2 or 3 years going, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. Like, really bluntly, I'm really fucking miserable here. If something doesn't change, we're fucked. Like, and the message just never got through. So when eventually I just went, I'm out. I can't do it anymore. He literally, I remember standing there at the front door and just went, oh, I didn't see this coming.
So
And I just went, what? How?
Men say that all the time. It happens all the time. I work with those guys.
And I find that crazy.
They say that they can never see it come in. With hindsight, they did know. They could spot all the signs. But men, so there's a few things about this. I think men generally have a higher capacity to be in a mediocre relationship than women.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
We have lower standards. We can handle a lot of mediocrity.
Yeah.
Right. When it's horrible, it's probably more equal.
Yeah.
But when it's just mediocre, men are cool with mediocre. Women are not.
Well, it's like the path of least resistance, isn't it? It's just like,
yeah. Well, no, I don't even think it's that. I don't even think it's that. It's like men are pretty easy to please. Like we don't have, from an emotional perspective, lots of men, because of culturally, right? We don't expect that much.
Yeah.
It's like, come home and have some food and sit on the sofa, watch the football, play with our kids and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, life is all right. And unfortunately, the British man has been held that that's as good as it gets, right? Because that's as good as our fathers had it, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right? We came home, they got a bit of dinner, they got to watch the telly, right?
Yeah,
they
tell
got
the kids off. They get
control, right?
Yeah.
That was as good as it got. So that's our level of expectation. Whereas you guys watch romance films and read Gone with the Wind and all of that sort of stuff, and like you want all of this passion and romance and all this, all this pie in the sky nonsense.
We're leveling up all on our own.
All this love and passion and all of this stuff, right? Whereas you have these expectations, right? And if those needs are met, we're going to call it a day.
We're off.
So, yeah. And so, guys, let's also remember that men, like, generally, I'm making generalizations here.
Yeah, right? I was going to say
because there's those guys that go, I didn't see it coming. And it's a line that they're feeding themselves, right? Because they kind of did, but they also didn't want to face it, because there's a few things going on here. A lot of men don't have high emotional literacy, right?
Yeah.
We're not very good about talking about our feelings. Women do discuss their feelings. You have more feelings than us anyway. We have testosterone, which means largely emotionally, internally, we flatline from an emotional perspective, right?
Right.
We're pretty flatline. We have testosterone, which can make us angry. So we can get angry in an empty box, right? Apart from that, that's about it. Our emotional responses come from external events.
Yeah.
Big external events like deaths, divorces, accidents, stuff like that come along very rarely, right? A few times in one's life, which is why women handle them much better, because you guys go through emotional roller coasters on a monthly basis, right?
Right.
Daily, even. Am I right?
And then we live with you kids as well.
And we can never comprehend what that feels like, because we have literally one internal emotion. The worst thing that men do, though, which all of my guys on any of my programs will be sick of hearing me say it, don't jump on the roller coaster, right? As you guys go on your roller coaster, we can experience your emotions if we tag along with you for the ride. It's a really bad idea. You don't want us to do it. We don't. We shouldn't do it, right? And this is why men and women make a great partnership, right? Because you guys can do your roller coaster, and we're supposed to be anchored, holding the space for you.
Definitely.
After you've been on your ups and downs, right? And so we don't have that emotional literacy. We don't have that like multicolored, multi-flavored emotional internal world like you do.
Yeah.
So we do, and so it scares us. right? We watch you doing it and we don't quite understand you, right? We don't really quite get what's going on over there. And then you come and go, like, as far as we're concerned, you're just doing your normal thing. She's happy, she's sad, she's angry. Like, I don't know, this could be normal. And then you go, and now it's over. And we go, oh,
Oh.
right, okay. I thought you were just doing your thing. I thought you were just doing your I'm not happy thing because it was the third week of the month. Um, and I didn't want to ask. I didn't want to ask because I didn't want to hear the answer. Because if I hear the answer, then I've got to do something about it. I've got to fix it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
No, that's hard because that's not my world, right?
totally. And yeah, and it's the lack of, the wanting to fail, isn't it? They're not wanting to fuck it up. They're not wanting to admit that
Well,
you
failure is a
can't.
massive thing for men when it comes to marriage. Again, that sense of failure, the feeling that they failed if their marriage is over, leads them to ignore what might be going wrong. Because if they know that it's wrong and then they can't fix it, then they failed, right?
Definitely.
They don't want to
And
know.
not wanting to let your kids down, which, I would, again, generalizing, but I would say, largely guys don't want to break up the family home either. It's not a male female thing, but I do think there is that provider, that kind of, being head of the household, being the role model, that if that breaks down, obviously that means they've failed massively as well.
Correct. And there's a massive fear around losing everything, right? We're the ones that generally have to move out of, so we lose our home,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
We lose our family. We might only see the kids now every other weekend. Like our whole sense of purpose is out out the window. So it's more daunting, I think, for a man. Women, the thought of parenting, solo parenting, or and having the responsibility of kids on their own is one thing, and I'm sure that's daunting as well. But the flip side of that is guys are like, oh, I don't get to dad at all.
yeah.
Uh,
Your
and I think,
identity
well, I'm
completely.
not have the dad on my own.
Yeah,
Scary.
it's really scary. And yeah, and I guess having to kind of rebuild your whole, like, I know, like you say, as a mum staying in the home, having to rebuild your identity and having to rebuild your whole life is very different to dad being out of the home, having to
Totally.
rebuild and
But
not have that day-to-day contact.
most guys have to go back to their parents' house, sleep in
Yeah,
their old room, crash on somebody's sofa. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
These really emasculating process, one way or the other, or at the very best, into a tiny little. I moved from a beautiful 4-bedroom detached house, massive garden opposite the green, to a little 2-bed flat. I hadn't lived in a flat since I was a bloody teenager. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? And it was like, oh my god, what have I got? I literally couldn't fit my stuff in it. Like, and it's still there. I was staying in a 2-bedroom flat. It's a new one. I've bought it, but I've still got a load of stuff in my ex-wife's loft. Do you know what I mean? My stuff literally would not fit in my flat.
That's
So it's like this thing. Oh, and first of all, I went to my mum's. First of all,
because where else do you go, right? Like, it's not like you
well,
have provision for any kind
it's
of this.
awful, man.
Yeah, I bet.
So like, then you can't even go dating or whatever because all you can do,
Take them back to your own mom and dad's house. What?
right?
No, no. Yeah, no, okay. I get that. I do get that. I just, I don't know. It just makes me think like obviously what you're doing is incredible, getting guys to talk, but I just feel like it's such an important, like, communication skill that should be taught in school. Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand
no.
why it's not.
So I think too much. This is why I haven't like cheered you on too much when you're going getting guys to talk, because it is part of it, but it's a smaller part of the puzzle. So I think communicating is essential. I think largely, so the like it's good to talk. That whole messaging comes from the NHS, right?
Mhm.
Mental health services, which is 80% staffed by women.
Right.
So their concept and the idea of how to manage people's mental health is to do so in a very feminine way, which usually includes lots of talking. Now, some guys find it useful to talk, and at some point, having language and being able to articulate their emotions and feelings is really, really useful and a powerful part of the process. But I think it's almost turned into a bit of browbeating, like this thing that the only way to fix it is to talk. You lot need to talk. And I think women expect that of their partners. Can you get him to talk? He never talks. He doesn't communicate. How am I supposed to know how he feels? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys just don't talk. They don't want to talk. That's not what is helpful for them.
Yeah, I hear that.
Right? A lot of guys, listen, I can go out and have a game of golf with my mate. We can have a bit of a laugh, 4 or 5 hours out in the countryside, trees, wind, nature, sport, bit of friendly competition. That's therapy. It's a couple of guys, one of my clients, his mate comes around and they fix his motorbike together. Game of football, pint down the pub, right? Going for a walk, bit of fishing. Sometimes we don't actually have to talk. We can do, and if you do want to talk, sometimes the talking comes out then. Right? You call it shoulder to shoulder therapy, right? Side by side, whatever you want to do. And it comes with doing something as well, sitting opposite a man and expecting him then to express his feelings and stuff like that. It's not always the best way. Some guys, yeah, but for a lot of men, it's just a no-no. And actually what we're doing is we're compounding the problem, because we're asking them to do something that's really uncomfortable to them and is more likely to get them to shut down, and also make them feel like they're broken, that there's something wrong with them, and that there's some shame around them not wanting to talk. And that's not the case at all. So I really want that message to kind of go out there. It's about, but what you do have to do, guys, is figure out a way to manage your emotions, right?
Yeah.
You do have to figure that out. And if talking isn't a way, then you have to find another way. Like meditation is a way of emotional regulation, right? It was invented by men who lived up a mountain on their own with no women, right? So they, like, how do you then regulate your emotions if you're not talking? Okay. And so it's a very masculine practice, meditation. It's about internally managing your emotional system, right? So meditation is very, very powerful for men, as exercise, sport, activity, all of those sort of things. And camaraderie is a big one. But I think we do talking in a different way to how women want us to. Here's the other thing: you guys go, oh, talk to me, tell me all about it, and everything else like that. And then actually, if men do that quite often at a primal level, it can make you not fancy them anymore.
Yeah, I hear that.
Who really doesn't want to hear all of their problems and their feelings and all of their weaknesses and everything else like that? You know, it can spoil the thing. So essentially, it's one of those things that women do, which is you think you know what you want, but when it happens, you don't. You go, you want to turn men into one of your girlfriends, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, oh, now why don't I fancy him anymore?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And thought about so many reasons why I'm still single, Fidel. I really thought about like that.
Communicative man. Oh,
I don't.
Oh, don't do that.
That's half the problem. I'll have this one. Actually, no, not so much. Okay.
Moving on.
Talk to me about Daddy Pig. Daddy. I was about to say Daddy Pigging, but I'm not sure that's quite what I meant.
Daddy Pigitis.
That's the one.
I put in my message to you, isn't it?
I loved it. I was like, what now? Come again, sorry?
It's a societal problem. I've come up with the phrase. It's my TM.
Love it.
So we all know Daddy Pig, right?
Yeah.
How would you describe Daddy Pig?
Well, he's Peppa Pig's dad. He's married to Mummy Pig. They have George Pig. He's a big round, lazy. I say lazy. He does go to work. How much work he does there, I don't really know. But I guess that's kind of
in there, right? He's a bit useless.
Yeah.
He gets laughed at and ridiculed by his own children. Oh, Daddy Pig, silly Daddy Pig, right?
Oh yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him now. Yeah.
Right, Daddy Pig, Homer Simpson, all the other characters, father characters. Again, this next generation are ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we've got a generation of kids now and women in their masculine and children who are at a societal level are disrespecting the role of father.
Agreed. 100%.
And that's the caricature at the moment. And that is also the stereotype. So here's the part of the problem. It's really easy for people to step into a stereotype. If there's a
Mm,
ready-made mold for somebody to step into, especially if it means they get to be lazy and not really take responsibility, we'll do it. So we've got a lot of dads actually stepping into the daddy pig role and
mm.
laughing, going along with it, contributing to their own demise.
That's so true.
Everybody's contributing to their own demise in this little cycle that we've got, and it's harming everybody. It's harming everybody
Mm.
because dads are, you know, a lot of dads just don't know how to do it and they laugh it off rather than taking their role of father as one of the most important roles you could ever have.
Yeah. How do you see
They're
the
laughing
role
it off.
of a father? How do you like? What's either your experience or what do you think that should entail?
Well, look, there's the provider element.
Hmm.
Mainly as our role fundamentally is showing our daughters and our sons how men show up in the world, right? And what that means and what masculinity means. And that means, for me, that means leadership.
Yeah.
It means safety. It means providing. It means it means
Respect.
love, right?
Yeah.
It means benevolence. It means humor, right? But
Definitely.
it means all of those things, you know, that dads bring to the table. Mums bring a softer element to it, that nurturing bit of safety in the home, but fathers bring a larger field of safety out of the house. Do you know what I mean? Like and over the house. It's very important, and it's what it isn't is silly,
Mm.
right? What it isn't is being disrespected in that way. What it isn't is, yeah, daddy pick.
Yeah. It's like this. They're like a caricature, like a buffoon kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Just and it is like you say, it's this the lack of respect that in all of these scenarios, mum is picking up the slack because she has no choice. Like even in like your 15-minute Peppa Pig,
Uh-huh.
like mummy's still there busting her ass, going to work, looking after the kids, driving them to and from, because dad's not really seen as capable. It's
Capable.
not even that he's not even important. He's just not.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a third child.
Correct.
No one wants that.
Nope.
Do you think that is largely? Do you think that contributes to why there are so many kind of single solo parenting households?
I think it's a contribution. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because yeah, like you said, nobody wants that, right? Nobody's happy in that environment, in that scenario. Nobody's happy.
Mm,
Men aren't feeling fulfilled, men aren't feeling respected, which is a fundamental thing that masculine wants to feel is respected, is valued, is useful.
mm,
And in this little dynamic, we're none of those things,
definitely.
right? So we're going to go and seek feminine person who is going to, that's why men often, the caricature again is men will go off with the secretary, they'll go off with somebody who's below them in work, they'll go off with the barmaid or somebody else like that, this classic feminine role who looks up to him, someone younger, right, who
Yeah,
he's allowed to play that masculine role with. Meanwhile
yeah,
the woman will go off with the builder, the garage, the guy down the garage, do you know what I mean, her boss,
yeah.
right,
Somebody
somebody
who's
who's
got the
who
hands. Yeah.
brings that masculine element. We seek polarity,
Mm,
right? And if it's not going on in our home, then we'll seek it elsewhere. So yes, it contributes to that massively, and it's just really sad.
mm,
And the other bit I was talking to you about is women sort of woman splaining to dads about parenting, right? And I
yeah.
see it all the time. And you see it while you're out and about. That whole thing of where a single dad will get congratulated. Oh, isn't he doing well?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow, look at that dad pushing his child on the swing.
Yeah,
Man, do you know
yeah.
what I mean? And it's women that do that, mind, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, something that Leanne and I spoke about, like, oh, dad's staying at home, he's babysitting while you're out. Like, how the fuck are you babysitting your own kids? Like, I
Oh,
don't get paid to babysit my kids. Like, that's not necessarily women doing that. Like, that's a lot of your mates kind of going, oh, you're at home babysitting again, are you? Do you know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. That's an immature. That it happens. It happens across the board.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also, you do get a lot, like women find it sexy, right? Listen, I run the Modern Women's group, right? You're in there.
Mm.
Post a picture of a man holding a baby or whatever, and you like are all ovulating all over the place.
No, they might be.
Me, nothing. I want to see a big butch man covered in tattoos holding a baby.
What?
There's nothing for me whatsoever.
Not at all, no.
So, like, and it's bizarre, and like, because I just remember doing. I've always been hands on that. My eldest daughter always lived with her mum, right?
Mm,
So, but this is back in the day. She's 19 now, so she was
mm,
born in 2003. I remember, like, she was living with her mum right from when she was a baby in Bedfordshire, and I lived in Bristol. So I used to have to do this thing every other weekend. Sometimes I used to fly over from Spain, land, hire a car, Bristol to Bedfordshire, Bedfordshire back to Bristol. Sometimes she wouldn't let me see her. Sometimes, like if I was half an hour late after doing an international flight, hiring a car, driving all the way down the M4, around the M25 and up the M1, if I
mm.
was a little bit late, you don't care about your child. I used to sleep in my car outside her house because she'd pretend not to be there and stuff. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Mm.
But so I used to like solo parent my little baby, right? Do you know what I mean? When she was 2, 3, 4, nappies and all of that. She realized no nappy changing facilities in the men's toilets in the service stations.
Of
I
course.
used to have to go and get the little key to go into the disabled toilets, all of that sort of stuff. And I'd get women coming up to me going, oh no, like here, let me help. And I'm like, I'm perfect. I've been doing this.
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm doing. Thanks, love. And that, that get that a lot. I think a lot of
Mm.
women feel and generally about relationships as a whole, and this rubs off on men, right? That women are the ones that know about relationships. They're the ones that hold the keys. They're the ones that know and understand relationships and parenting a lot better than we do. That's my little rant. Anyway, I know you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah. No,
get it.
I hear you. I guess, but I would say that's society's perception of it. That's not. It's not right because I would say I know probably in my personal life zero about relationships and probably even less about fucking parenting.
But
But
I think we only find that out at this stage, right?
right, yeah,
Let's
totally.
remember again the conversation that we're having and where we both are at this stage of our life. Because here's the other thing. Like obviously, I do quite a lot of work with guys who like post-divorce men and women, right? And what we're looking at now is this dating field that's unprecedented. There's
Yeah,
never been this many single people. And I did a post about it the other day, right? That when like we're still trying to use the systems that we were taught in order to find a partner to have babies with, right? And
yeah,
really what we're looking for a partner at this stage of life is something totally different. We're totally unprepared for it. We don't know
yeah,
what we're doing. And
yeah,
as you can see, right, the world is littered with Western world 40 somethings having zero clue how to start a new relationship, right? It's a car
yeah.
crash. It's horrific. Hopefully, I'm going to be on a new TV show that will help that. But
So excited,
there's
by the way.
like, and women are only, they get to this point and realize they didn't know shit. But for the past 20 years, I think women were definitely like when they're in their 20s and 30s and stuff like that. It's like, right, I know what we're doing. We're gonna get married. We're gonna have the house, and we're gonna decorate it like this. And it's all gonna thing. We're gonna have
Yeah,
the kids, and we're gonna do it like this. And they kind of lead that thing. They have that vision, right? Lots of little girls grow up with the vision of getting married and how their life is going to be like, and all of these sort of things.
oh yeah, the Disney complex, like it's just ruined like actual real life for everyone,
Right?
hasn't it? And especially the way that like society's moved on. So like you say, like we're growing up, let's say in the 90s, 2000s, we went out to bars, we went out to pubs, we met people face to face, right? We knew that if you talk to somebody, you swap numbers, whatever, you went on dates, you nurtured that relationship, and that's how you ended up being with somebody for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. Now we're on a screen and we have like a catalogue. You can go, oh, he's not fit, oh, he's not this, he's not. There are so many reasons not to connect with people, but even if you connected with them, they might actually be the best person you've ever met, but you don't give them that chance because there's the option, right? So for all of our kids like growing up, dating is completely fucked because they've got no idea now how to communicate, how to connect with people, the idea of how they're supposed to meet someone or how they're supposed to conduct a relationship has changed. And as their guidance, as their parents, we also don't have kind of an idea of how to support them in that because we're so misaligned with how that works now.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It does. Breaks my
I just
heart.
have a bit of a rant.
You did just have a bit of a rant, and I think you're right. And I think a lot of people would agree with you. But I'm not so sure myself. Like, but I mean, I do agree with the fact that the vast majority of people have no idea what to do and how to do it, and in this current landscape. I also think that a lot of that is is excuses from what's really going on, which is in order for it to work. Because look, both sides, if we're going to look at it like that, which is unfortunately how it plays out as sides, men and both men and women are complaining about each other.
Yeah. Standard.
And about the thing in the middle, apps and all of that sort of stuff. It's not the app, guys.
What is it then, Fidel? Hit me.
And it's not the men or the women. What it is, it's us as individuals. It's us as individuals. It's much easier to flick paint at the other, at everything else. And like working through that, you just said, so we have a number of problems, right? 8% of women fancy 20% of men. So small put. So then you take that 20% of men, then you take out the gay ones, take out the married ones, take out the ones, all kinds of psychos, right? You've actually got a very small pot of single men that are fanciable. So you did a great impression then of a woman on a dating app. Said, no, don't like him, 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 don't like him.
Yeah.
Like I thought, I'm going to sound like a bit of a dickhead here, but I call them 1%ers, right? And when I was single and I was dating, I was definitely in the 1%, right? And I had this thing, I got my shit together, I had a house, you know what I mean? Didn't live with my mum for long, right? I was able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Knew how to lead a relationship and organize a date and all that sort of stuff, right? And take a good photo.
Always important.
Take a good photo. So I look good on photographs, right? Totally. So that's it. Nailed it. It's over 6 foot tall as well, right?
Bing, bing, bing.
Bing, bing. All the stars, like, you know. So then I had this experience of online dating. I was like, it's fantastic, guys. What are you all moaning about? Until I started helping guys with their dating, and I looked at their barren inbox, right? I'm like, damn,
it's hard.
And then even me as a 1%er, my inbox compared to an average woman, her inbox is rammed. My inbox is full. Hers is rammed. Poor old 80% of dudes.
Tumbleweed, my friend.
In their inbox.
Yeah.
And they're not, listen, these guys are not horrible. They're not narcissists. They're not assholes. They're not sending dick pics. They're not any of these things. I mean, they might do in the end after 6 years of getting laid.
Like, I reckon they will.
They might get a little bit frisky as soon as you say hello. Right? Oi. Kind of understandable, right? Cut them a break. Yeah. And women are passing these guys by, not giving them a break because they have this higher ideal of, oh, well, I can't help it if I don't fancy them. Now, remember, this guy would probably be, if it wasn't on a dating app, right, and you worked in his office and he was your manager or something like that for 4 or 5 years, right, you might see who he is. You might grow to like him and appreciate him and all of that. But when you're just looking at a photograph, you're just swiping on him.
Yeah. And it's disheartening.
It's yourself, son.
Oh no, I'm fine. But it's disheartening because, like you say, if you were somebody that you worked with or is a friend of a friend or something, they'd grow on you and you'd have that, like we used to have, that organic connection, that kind of time to get to know someone, and actual something blossoms, something just falls into place. But I guess
now, not Tom Hardy. You got no chance.
Well, there is that. But or Cillian Murphy, I'll take either. But I was talking to a friend the other day about like how our kids are going to have such a different way of socializing and meet. They're so online, everything's so they
Yeah,
sit in their
no,
room and
they
stuff.
don't. They don't. They do. I mean, look, I've got three teenage girls, right, and they've all grown up. One's 16, 8, 19, and 22, right? So I've watched them all do all of that. And I think, I don't know. I think they know far more about what they're doing than we do.
Do you
Our
reckon?
kids are out and about. They're out and about. They're socializing. So this is where we get it wrong.
Okay.
People think far too much. They have far too high expectations of what Tinder actually is. For me, Tinder is one of the best brand names ever. Think about what it is. Do you know what Tinder is when you light a fire?
Yeah.
It's not the match. It's not the wood.
Spark.
It's not the flame.
Yeah.
It's not the kindling. It's the spark. That's
Yeah.
all it's offering. Here, here's a photograph of somebody that you might like. Have a chat. Go on a date. Get to know them. It's no different.
Yes.
And here's
Yeah.
the thing: it's not meeting in a nightclub with sticky carpets after you've had 10
Oh,
pints. You've got your beer goggles on.
oh yeah. Oh,
You actually get to speak to them in a fresh light of day. It's fantastic. What an opportunity. What a wonderful time to be alive. The kids do it. Guys hit my daughter up on Instagram, right?
oh
But they
God.
always go, yeah, hi, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Do
Yeah.
you want to go out for a drink? Do you want to go out on a date? Do you want to
Okay.
meet up? Do you want to have a chat? That's all it's doing. It's like, here's somebody you might like. Let's meet in real life. Like
Okay.
people conflate the fact that that it's not real life. I will never understand that. It is part of real life. It's just the Tinder. It's
Let,
your job to then create the rest of the fire that keeps you warm.
okay. Okay. All right. I hear that. I totally take that on board.
But
Maybe then maybe it's an age thing, maybe it's an availability thing, or maybe it's actually not wanting to take that next step.
yeah, so now we're getting into the real nitty gritty of what's going on for
Yeah.
both men and women, right? Is the fear.
Yeah.
Here's the fear. Then the fear, what the fear then turns into after a period of time is almost, I'm not going to use the word desperation because that's not quite it. But when we place too much desire, want, like, so when at this point in our lives, the last thing we want to do is get into another failed relationship.
Right.
Whereas as we get older, we feel our time is more and more and more valuable. There's less and less of it. We can see the end of the road. What we're looking for is someone to spend the rest of our life with. We can't handle another divorce. We've been through that. We're not going to do it again. What a pressure.
Mm,
What a pressure to put on your choice.
yeah.
Because none of us like to end relationships anymore.
Yeah.
So we're so attached to the outcome. We don't want to get into it with anybody. We have to find the perfect person.
Mm,
Not just anybody will do. We don't want to waste time getting to know somebody because that's 3 months down the line. What if they're not the person? How will you ever know?
yeah. Just get out there and have a
Just give
date.
each other a chance. 3 months, 6 months. Oh, I'd rather spend it single than getting into 2, 3, or 4 month relationships to figure it out to see if I do like somebody. To say no, go listen. It was worth a try. We've had a fantastic time, but goodbye. Because we're all rubbish at that part. We don't like it. We're all a bunch of scaredy cats, and it annoys the hell out of me. I had lots of those medium term relationships, lots and lots in those 3 or 4 years. Sometimes they were concurrent, but
You have to
right.
know what you want, though.
Listen, and how are you
Yeah.
supposed to figure out what you want until you're out there in it, doing it in the sharp end, in the swimming in the deep water,
Yeah, definitely. You
learning
have
about
to go out and
yourself,
date.
learning how to communicate, learning how to say no, thank you, goodbye. Here's my boundaries. No, I don't like it when you do that. Please don't do
Yeah.
that. Okay, this isn't working for me. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.
Yeah.
You have to
It's a
become a
huge
better
skill.
picker and a better ender.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a life skill. I think so many times people hang on, like when you're younger, you hang on because you don't want to be the person that gets dumped, or you, like you say, you don't know how to end it. And you end up being just like let down or cheated on, or, and you hear that so often. So to be able to go out and actually learn how to be on a date, how to just meet someone and actually not even have any kind of expectation, not have any onus put on it, just to go out and meet someone and have human connection, have someone
More
who
than a date,
allows you to be
I
you.
think I think people do. I think people do go out on dates and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
If they go on one date or they go on two dates, what we're really scared of is that little middle bit. What we're really scared of is opening up and being a bit vulnerable and getting to know someone really over 3 or 4 months,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't know somebody on one date or two
Oh no.
dates or three dates. You don't know anybody. And here's the other problem: you don't really know somebody or whether you want to be with them until after you've slept with them.
Yeah.
How about that?
Oh yeah. You have to do that.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. But that's scary for women because you sleep with somebody and all the oxytocin gets released and you get all connected and everything else like that. And then saying goodbye is difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff is murky. So it takes bravery, it takes courage, which lots of people just don't have and don't want to do. And now you've got social media. We were talking about this with Leanne the other day. I was like, we're out there. Loads of people are like, oh, you guys are the most fantastic couple. We're like, oh, couple goals. And we're like, yeah, man, imagine like what it would be like. Like sometimes I think that's one reason why we're still together. I'm joking. But the thought now of going, oh, by the way, guys, me and Leanne have decided to split up, right? Having
Yeah.
to bloody do that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
something I'm gonna do.
Well, again, because other people have
Right.
expectations, right? It's not to do with, you guys could be, I mean, well, anything behind closed doors. Like you could constantly row. You could be, this could all be a massive facade that none of us know because
We're quite open about it,
yeah,
relationship isn't easy. But it's a long distance relationship. We live
yeah,
2 hours apart. We have very different we're at very different life stages. She's
yeah,
13 years younger than me, and her kids are significantly younger than mine,
yeah,
which is a big thing for me that I've had to overcome because I'm like, I did the stepdad thing and I swore to myself I wouldn't do it again. But again, I'm not moving to live out in the middle of nowhere in Guildford. She's not moving to the middle of Bristol. So again, do we have these expectations from society as, oh, when are you guys going to move into each other? We're not. When
yeah,
you guys get married? We might not, but
yeah.
our relationship, the way that we're having it at the moment, works for both of us. But that relationship trajectory is still embedded in both of our subconscious. Is like, is there something wrong with us? Are we doing this? When is it going to get serious? When are we going to move in with each other? When are we going to get married? We have to check with ourselves: is that what we actually want, or are we both actually quite happy having this? And like, why can't we just do this for 10 years? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean we're any less committed to each other. In fact, probably means we're more so.
Definitely. Yeah. And I was going to say that. I mean, obviously, I know, Leanne and I spoke about it on the podcast. And obviously, we've spoken about it kind of off the podcast, not like behind your back or whatever. I think you might have been in the room when we were talking about it, as it goes. But the fact that you are making the commitment to the relationship doesn't mean you're not making a commitment to the situation. Like you can have a different circumstance that's not day to day, and actually you probably benefit from having your own time and having your own lives, because when you make the effort to be together, so much more comes of that.
Yeah, there's pluses and minuses, and it does. And after a while, though, it's quite normal now. We do
Yeah.
spend quite a bit of time with each other. I have my daughter every other week, so weeks like this, and usually I'm spending all week up here on my own. But usually I would go down there for part of it and then hang out with her and her kids and all that and do that part. She was up here on Monday, weirdly enough, without any kids, and ended up staying the night, which is a nice little surprise. Yeah, so it has its pluses and minuses. We get our individual time where we can go and just do stuff without worrying about the other person.
Yeah.
And yeah, we both have a lifestyle and businesses that enable us to spend just enough time with each other to make it worthwhile. But yeah, like it's not without its difficulties, especially as Leanne will testify, being in a relationship with someone like me ain't easy.
In what sense?
Well, I think I do what a lot of women wish their men would. I lead the relationship, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I hold the space, and I hold Leanne to a higher standard. We hold each other to a higher standard, and I communicate relentlessly. And I think we have to with the distance and stuff like that. And so we have conversations, and she appreciates it. Afterwards, she always goes. Sometimes she doesn't like the conversations, but she always appreciates that I bring them up and that we have them.
Definitely. I guess it's because it brings uncertainties to the forefront. It brings complications that maybe, ideal world time you wish weren't there. But again,
Well, I don't know. It's just that most people aren't used to having that level of communication, what that actually means, that level of vulnerability,
yeah, and that's what I was going to
level
say.
of
It's a good
intimacy as
thing
well.
because you're willing to do it. And I think if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to have the relationship, let alone the distance that you have, because you wouldn't be able to be that open and that connected with each other.
Correct.
I love it.
I do too. I love her too. She's good, man. She's game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it makes her, it's uncomfortable for her, but she does it. She's a very brave. She's very brave, and I admire her emotional responsibility is what I call it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Emotional responsibility is something I respect greatly. Um, you know, she's a woman still, right? So I get I get all the emotions, I get all the stuff. Right, come closer, give me a hug, don't
no
touch
comment.
me. Yeah, all of that. I still experience that. Again, she's still, we're both still humans. So we both still do that stuff like that. But largely on the whole, with the serious stuff, if something upsets her or something like that, she takes it away and she comes back when she's processed it and is able to communicate that properly without the emotion behind it. We can talk it through, and that's a really valuable thing to bring to a relationship for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And again, having, the Leanne and I talked about the extended family thing. And again, I know you're kind of part of that conversation, but it's difficult to juggle, difficult to manage often when you're all in the same place, to have, your kids, her kids, I know you've got stepkids, all of that kind of dynamic. So in a way, being kind of as far apart as you are, does it give that freedom to just conduct your own lives? Does it make it harder to connect?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure she won't mind me talking about it. I think that's something that bothers her more than it bothers me. So my kids are obviously older, so it's like they're not interested in engaging with her two little kids.
Yeah.
That's not fun. My youngest daughter also has stuff about not staying away from home. She doesn't do sleepovers and all that, so she's not really interested in. Also, my kids are city kids, right?
Yeah.
Leanne lives on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Like my kids are like, ooh, spiders, flies. You know what I mean? And, chickens, cows. So like there's like some quite big differences, and so it's difficult to bring our families together like that. And I think she does struggle with that bit. I think since she struggles with it, I think that's a desire of hers that we did more big family things.
I think she understands it.
When we had a big conversation, this was part of it. We were like, okay, there was some stuff going on where we had, both of us were definitely kind of being a little bit cagey about stuff. So I opened up the conversation, we hashed it out, and we got to the bottom of it. And I think that was definitely something for her. And I said, well, okay, well, like, when something I teach my guys to ask their partners is, how do you feel? How can I help you to feel differently? It's a way of leading your woman back to her feminine place. So a lot of men say, what are you thinking? What would you like to do? What we're doing with that is we're gradually leading our feminine partner into their masculine. What we should be doing is encouraging them to express their feelings, how they feel, and getting them to articulate it. So I think one of the things that meant a lot to her. So I booked, did my man thing, right? So I booked a big house in the, what's it called? Center Parks in May for one of my daughter's birthdays. So I invited all the girls and her kids. We're going to go and we're going to do a week in Center Parks in May. Booked it, paper it. Do you know what I mean? So we've got that to look forward to. So it's my commitment to trying to make that happen a little bit more. And I think maybe if once or twice a year we can do stuff like that. That will help her to feel. Airing my relationship on this podcast.
Okay, is that good?
It's fine. I mean, we don't have anything. We know we're out in the open, but I think it's useful for people to hear how we manage, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that, like, Leanne hasn't said. I'm not pressing you for anything. She's outed you ages ago, mate.
But it's useful for people to hear real life how how people like us handle these real life situations and these real life fears and discussions that go on within relationships in real time, because it's not easy at this point. The post-divorce relationships and all of that aren't easy, with all the juggling, all the little dynamics of exes and older kids and younger kids and all the bits that go along with that, and finances, and whether you're going to live together, move to each other. Because again, dating apps, social media, we met through Facebook, like sometimes you can meet. Those are two things I was adamant about: someone with younger kids and someone that lived far away. It was just two things that I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Then you have to make the decision of what's actually important to you. Is the person more important than the circumstances? And for me, that was the case.
100%. And you're completely right. That's obviously what you guys have found, and that's obviously what you guys are working on with your respective families and as a relationship. And I think it's really, really admirable that you're able to kind of take the lead in that and make Leanne feel secure in that, because it's a big ask.
That's the aim, and it's a never-ending task, right?
Definitely. We hope.
Oh, yeah. People ask me all the time whether I want to set up a matchmaking agency or something like that.
Yeah.
Solid no.
Yeah, totally.
For you lot, man.
Why not?
Because it's a hiding to nothing. So when I've got my 1% guys, which I've got a few of, again, I'm not sure the women who ask for them, I'm not sure you could handle them.
What?
I'm not sure you could.
Why? What makes you think that?
I did genuinely, like I said, when women, I did it on my post today. I was like, actually, like a lot of women put their partners forward to come and work with me. Sometimes they even pay for them to do that, but sometimes they don't like the results.
Right. Yeah, it's a risky
the man
strategy.
comes back who's all empowered and doesn't take their shit anymore, right? Right. And all of a sudden, somebody's saying no to them. That wasn't what they were expecting. Somebody actually
love that,
and they like the idea of it, but the reality feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like you can ask Leanne what it's actually like being stripped down emotionally, being encouraged to have these difficult conversations, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Talk to me, express to me. You want to talk? Let's talk. But here's how we're going to do it. We're not doing it like this. We're not doing it when we're in an emotional state. We're not doing it over text. You're going to wait for 4 days until I come down and I see you. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it face to face and all of that sort of stuff. Right? You ready? You can't speak to me like that. I'm not going to tolerate it. Goodbye. Come back to me when you're ready to speak to me about it normally. And things like that.
I think that's fair.
Again, I think a lot of women like it in their heads.
No, yeah, probably some women. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I'm not putting you into that. I'm not putting you into that bracket because you have done a lot of work. So, but there are a lot of women who say they've done it and they really haven't, and they're really not in the space to be able to kind of handle that, or not bring the shit. Like a guy who's done all his work and everything else like that, he's just not going to put up with it, because let's remember that they have a massive choice of women.
Huge. Yeah, right?
Yeah. For a start, and let's be honest, stepping out of the sweet shop is a big ask.
Yeah,
right? Totally. Because when you've got all of that opportunity and all of the women and everything else like that, you can just go and have fun with and this, that, and the other. Most of the women you're interacting with are cool with that too, because the different stages they're in with their lives. Like, that's fun.
And it takes a lot of restraint. And again, that's that mutual respect. You have to know what your choice is. What choice have you made to be with that person, to be in the relationship that you're in? Or like you say, you're kind of still looking, so you're not in that relationship.
I think a lot of women get mad about that. They're like, he said he wanted a relationship, and then like we split up after 3 or 4 weeks, and it's like the guy does want a relationship, just not with you.
Totally. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I get that.
Automatically mean that because he broke up with you that he doesn't want a relationship. He does. He just found out what you were really like.
Yeah, it's your time to do the work now, off you go. Right? Yeah.
Because again, those guys, they're relentless, and they won't tolerate anything less than what is right for them. And a woman that makes them feel a certain way, that inspires them, that treats them well, that doesn't disrespect them, and is fun and playful and all of those sort of things, you know. So yeah, it takes a dose of real self-awareness. And again, I think our industry is responsible for that kind of toxic positivity that we spread out, which is like, oh no, you're okay as you are, which is kind of true. Like, self-love you as you are, but also have some real self-realization of who you are and what you where you know your number, right? It's a horrible thing to say, it sounds it, but it's also kind of true, isn't it? Have some realistic expectations about what kind of partner you're going to attract and fit into a relationship with.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing about, you know, the swiping and the dating and stuff. Like, as you say, there are some guys that do need to do the work, but there are some women that do need to do the work. But I think then you get to the point where, you know, you've kind of done a good amount of work. There's always more to do, but you're still looking, but you're not willing to just settle for less. Do you know what I mean? You've done kind of.
When people are allowed to say that, this is the bit. Here's a hypocrisy again in our world, right?
Yeah.
People are allowed to say, "I won't settle for less."
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about human beings here.
Yeah. No.
But when somebody else says, you know, but you should also know your number, it's like, oh, you can't say that. I'm worth this, that, and the other. I'm worth more than that. It's not that. You're talking about other people, not just the situations.
Yeah, no, totally. And I didn't mean less as
No, I
in.
know. Again, I'm not. I don't mean you. I'm talking about the narrative out there.
Yeah.
In the dating
It's
world.
about knowing what you deserve and what you are worth, but also what you want. And I think that's, for me, that's the less. Like, you shouldn't have to just say, you know, oh yeah, they'll do. They're still working on themselves, but it'll be fine. You know, you should have somebody, like you say, the polarity that matches you, that aligns with you, that you can grow with, that allows you to grow, that you shouldn't have to wait for them to kind of step up.
Yeah, and unfortunately, again, that's an issue because more women engage in personal development than men do.
Yeah, and that's where you come in, my friend.
For sure.
Definitely, we need to get more men engaged in your program, and we need to get you to get a dating app so we know where to find them.
True. Not to be fair though, a lot of my guys, they don't stay single for very long, and if they do, it's by choice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kick in the pants, isn't it, really? We still need to know where to find them.
I've got some very hunky ones who are running around in the sweet shop at the moment.
Oh, dude. Killing me over here.
When they're ready to stop playing, I'll let you know.
Okay, well, you heard it here first, podcasters.
Yeah.
We'll just keep that one on the back burner. Fidel, I've loved having you here. It's been so much fun. I think we should definitely do this again. I think it would be incredible to kind of hear what you and Leanne have to say sometime together, and just to hear some more of your kind of take on parenting, because I think we've talked a lot today about, you know, what you do.
We talked a lot about kind of relationshipy stuff more than parenting stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, but I love that because I think we've kind of thrown some of the parenting stuff in there as well. But I'd love to hear more about your parenting experiences, I guess, another time if you come back.
Yeah, why not? It's been fun.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, as you can see, it's pretty difficult to get time with me. It's hard.
It is.
I looked at my diary and I was just like, not until 2023 unless we do it tonight.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, I'm really grateful. It's been so much fun.
I appreciate it. I listened to your podcast with Leanne and it made me laugh, and that's what I want to get into.
Yay!
I want to talk about Daddy Pig ISIS.
Yes. Yeah, more respect for the dads, definitely. And I love all the work that you're doing. So keep doing it, smashing it.
Thank you. I will do.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.